Alright, what's going on, guys? Try back again here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Breaking Bad video. This will be a spotlight video where I just basically talk about a character, talk about some of the interesting points, and why I like, dislike, hate, maybe, love the character, why I think they're very interesting. So, this one I absolutely had to do after the last couple episodes we've had in Season 5 of Breaking Bad. Now, I'll try to avoid any major spoilers for the last few recent episodes, but I may talk about some events that have happened recently. So if you're not totally caught up on the show up to where we're at now in Season 5, which is Season 5, Episode 7, then you may not want to watch this for spoilers. If you're not worried about it, though, stay. Cool, we'll talk about it. Also, this may change next season, even though, actually, well, it's the second part of Season 5, but it's still like 2 seasons almost, and obviously a lot more things are going to happen with Walt, and then at the end we'll find out if he is actually, going to die, going to get killed, going to get caught, going to get arrested. What's going to happen to him in the end. Recently, we've seen basically that the Walter White that started out at the beginning of the series has essentially become Heisenberg. Pretty much 100% now. Like, it's sort of like, you have two personalities there that are fighting for dominance inside his head. And up until this point, you kind of think that it's going back and forth and back and forth. And then in Season 4, he starts to slip more towards the Heisenberg side. And now in Season 5, he's full-blown Heisenberg. When he's given the chance in the buyout episode, Season 5, Episode 6, to leave basically, this whole business behind, everything that he's been doing, and just say goodbye to it. Get his family back, get his kids back, resolve things with Skylar, maybe stay with her if it all works out. I mean, we don't know if he went that route, if it would or not, but, it definitely would, he'd be able to see his kids again. It would, just fix everything in his life so he could have his old life back. And then they'd have money, too. They'd have $5 million from the buyout. And their car wash, which is plenty of, money and things to do with it. You have your own business there that brings an income for you too, and I'm sure is profitable if Skylar's running it well, and maybe Walt could do something else he likes to do for fun, or just go golfing all day, or whatever he wants to do, whatever people do when they retire. So he's given the perfect opportunity, and even Jesse tells him that he should go for this. I mean, this is perfect for him. Jesse's over there. He sees Skylar. He sees Walt. He sees the way their relationship has just been destroyed. Skylar mentions that she had an affair. All these things happen. But yet still, and after he's talked to Walter about it, still Walter is basically, his answer is essentially, I'm Heisenberg. I'm not Walter White anymore. And I can't go back, period. And I think that's insanely interesting. Now, he doesn't say those in words, but the meaning that is derived by his words, to me anyway, says that is basically he's Heisenberg, can't go back. He talks to Jesse about the situation with Gray Matter, which was his company. He started with those 2 other characters from the first season that are now married, and how he basically took a buyout for, I think, $5,000 is what he said, I think. And now the company's worth like billions, and so he basically in this situation refuses to take a buyout. Now, but I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it's really a war between, who inside Walter's head there, inside his mind, is really in control. Has Heisenberg taken over 100%, or is Walter White still in there, still wanting to do what he did originally, which was take care of his family, leave them with some money when the cancer comes back, all these kinds of things. And it seems like the damage has been done now that he literally cannot go back to the way he was at the beginning. He's completely changed. He's sort of gone down that route that, I compare it best to Al Pacino's performance in Scarface, where he was always evil, but in the end, he sort of turns on everybody. He eventually turns on everyone. In this past episode, we saw him turn on somebody. I'm not going to say who, but you guys know if you've seen it. That, he didn't really get along with him 100%. I mean, he had a lot of problems with him going through the series, but he didn't really need to do that. At least in my opinion, he didn't have to make that decision that he made in the last episode. It could have, he probably could have let him go, or, gone a different way, but it looks like his anger took over, his ego, his pride as Heisenberg. and also the title of the episode, which was Say My Name, and he gets them to refer to him as Heisenberg, not as his real name, as if that's the character that he plays. And then afterwards he says, "You goddamn right." Like, just one of the most badass scenes I've ever seen, that's for sure. And just one of the most badass characters now. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of the series where you get to see Bryan Cranston, he's got the long, his hair's long and stuff. It's like a totally different. It's like a totally different character. His hair is all, long. He's teaching high school classes. He's doing all this kind of stuff. He's getting into it, but he's still got that life there. His life is still, it's going from. I think the most interesting part about it is it's going from your like type A. Sort of conservative teacher type of person or character to the exact opposite. It's like all the teachers you would have in high school and stuff or grade school. What's one of the biggest things they tell you when they're they're talking about different stuff in life? They tell you don't do drugs, obviously, and like stuff like that. And then they try to teach you whatever subjects they can and give you as many life skills as they can, so that when you get out there in the real world, you can fend for yourself and you can make a decent living. And it's funny that he goes from that type of character to the exact opposite, biggest badass, drug dealer type character you'd ever want to see, who could probably give Al Pacino Scarface a run for his money one-on-one. I don't know. It'd be kind of tough to say. I'd like to see that go down, actually. Somebody do an animation or something. Send it as a video response. I'd like to see it. That'd be cool. Walter White versus Scarface. Or actually, I should probably start referring to him as Heisenberg, because Walter White in the name doesn't really make sense anymore referring to the character. So I think that's probably what makes him so interesting, is how he's changed in character development and just the evolution of the character throughout the series, and how a lot of it feels so natural. Probably the big thing for me that didn't feel that natural, or I guess maybe it's sort of like you didn't want to believe it was happening to him, was at the end of season 4, where you get to see the flowers, Lily of the Valley, in his backyard, sort of showing that he was the one who had engineered the situation with Jesse and caused that kid to get sick. Which was something where, again, like as a high school teacher, this kind of stuff, you're dedicating your life to bettering that of those kids, to trying to help them. You're not doing it for the money, because teachers don't get paid that much money. And then to flip that again, just amazing stuff. Favorite scene from the series with Walter White or Heisenberg has to be the part in, I think it's season 3. You can look it up online if you type in YouTube, best Breaking Bad scene. It's where, for me anyway, this is my favorite, is where Walt is at the, like a Home Depot type store, like a home hardware type store. And he sees a couple other guys that are getting all these, tools and stuff to cook. And then he's waiting in line, and you hear the dinging of the register. And then he just drops the buckets of paint or whatever he was getting, walks up to the guy and intimidates him like crazy. He tells him to stay out of his territory. That, to me, is the iconic Heisenberg scene, probably the most badass scene. I've heard a lot of people give other ones too. I mean, there's a lot of them, like when he tells Saul, "We're done when I say we're done." And there's a lot of them, but for me, that scene right there symbolizes Heisenberg 100%, and really shows, because he didn't have to do that, remember? He was just there buying paint or whatever. And there was nothing in it for him. It didn't matter. But he did it anyway. And I think that is pretty amazing. Now to this part where it's like he has the the opportunity to get that $5 million, so he could be out, he could be done for life. He knows he's got cancer, it's going to come back eventually. Goal complete, mission accomplished, out, done. Can't do it. Has to stay in there. Has nothing left to go back to, or feels like he can't go back at this point. So, man, he's one of my favorite characters in any series or any show I've ever seen. Bryan Cranston does an amazing job at portraying Walter White and Heisenberg. And it's funny, because he's the last person, you would think for a role like this. Literally, probably the last person at that age. Like, when you watch Malcolm in the Middle and you see how he acts as Hal in that show, to go from that with his crazy wife to this is like, man, it just blows your damn mind. And he's an amazing actor too. He's obviously won tons of awards for the show and everything. And you know, just overall, it's one of my favorite shows I've ever seen, and definitely Walter White, I'd have to say, is my favorite character from the series for sure. Anyway, that's it for this character spotlight, guys. Next time I'll probably be doing Jesse Pinkman, and then maybe if I get to it, maybe some others. Maybe do a character spotlight on Mike, maybe Gus. We'll see. See if you guys like it. And by the way, if you do like it, feel free to like it below and favorite it if you want to, and write me a comment below letting me know if you want me to continue doing these types of character spotlights. Later, guys.